I'll tell you, on a day like today, it'd be real hot up there. My grandmother lived on the second floor. My parents lived on the third floor, and my grandmother rented the first floor. If you grow up in a neighborhood like this, 20 years later, you're going to have friends who are in the priesthood and friends who are in a penitentiary. It's just the nature of growing up in Bridgeport. People go on different tacks. Coming from a blue-collar, working-class family, you get an opportunity to do something. I had the opportunity to go to college, and thanks to my parents, and so I went in that direction. I have friends who are still friends of mine who went in other directions. Lenny Grimaldi, good friend of mine, I was the best man at his wedding. When I stood in the federal court in front of Judge Arterton, I said, Your Honor, when I stood up at Lenny Grimaldi's wedding, I never expected to be standing up for him in front of you today. Lenny was convicted in a corruption scandal, went to the pen for a year, and he remains a friend of mine. There are a couple of guys from this block who, there are a couple of guys from this block who are dead, and there are a couple of guys from this block who have been to jail and are out, maybe are going back at some point. But when you grow up in a neighborhood like this, in a city like Bridgeport, you have friends that can go either way. I said to Judge Arterton when I was speaking on Lenny's behalf, I said, Your Honor, friendship is not always easy. If it was easy, there wouldn't be a whole hell of a lot of value to it. But Bridgeport's the kind of place where friends are friends because they have gone through similar things. Again, growing up in this neighborhood, I'm not saying it was Hell's Kitchen when I grew up here, but obviously it was not the Gold Coast of Fairfield County. So you tend to make very tight bonds in a setting like this, and shame on those who forget those bonds just because a friend gets in trouble. There are people who dream of a day and foresee a day when the city is going to be what it used to be. Those days are not coming back. Bridgeport has to figure out what its identity is going to be. The tide that's going to raise Bridgeport, I haven't seen yet what it's going to be. And that's the challenge. Yeah, the new Bridgeport is blooming. Downtown apartments, artist lofts, a cool entertainment zone. There's the new Bridgeport, the old Bridgeport, and there's Billy. That would be my friend Billy Anke, aka the pawnbroker. His shop is downtown at the corner of Fairfield and Broad, at the crossroads of the old and the new.
Play tennis. No, you gotta be in shape. Go do it. It doesn't seem like much, but
Never got into it. Need a nail gun, weed whacker, mahogany bongo drum, maybe a nice pinky ring. No guns though, only Billy's. This is the working man's bank, Billy says. An ATM for the working stiff who needs a quick loan. And a gold chain is the bank card.
a lot of money used to come into this town from you, baby.
Yeah.
You don't realize what was, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't see that.
The downtown area has emerged. Parking's not necessarily available. That's why.
Death before dishonor. That's Billy's code. He treats his customers fairly. In a prior life, though, in the wild Bridgeport, when certain families fought and killed for control, and the death thing was more literal, Billy got a reputation as a stand-up guy. He's 51, 225, and a former iron worker. there's not much nuance to Billy. Smack on most routes between the city halls and courts, you could say Billy also sits at the crossroads of the lawful and the lawless. You know, Billy is a stand-up guy. In a city where it seems everyone's playing an angle, talking slick, Billy's a fresh breeze. Well, maybe more like a gale. Bridgeport, USA. It's an immigrant city, and that will never change. So Billy can look out through the saxophones and guitars hanging in the window and watch the new city inch in. Push him out? Don't bet on it. He's got a strong position right here at the crossroads. There was a time Mario TESTA ran this city as undisputed head of its democratic political machine. But he doesn't look or talk like a kingfish. He sounds more like the immigrant who came here from his native Italy at age 13 and sat in kindergarten classes to learn the language. He learned the language, all right, and much more, like the art of politics. Part kingfish, part cultivator of the landscape. At age 60, he stepped down from the post of kingfish and person of interest to one FBI probe after another. These days, he tends to matters at his new restaurant in the city's north end, where the squabbles are with neighbors over fences and parking and zoning matters. Mario TESTA having trouble getting his way with Bridgeport City Hall? He says inspectors are tougher with him because of who he is or who he was.
You know, where you have to go through. Maybe because it was me.
Maybe you have to go through
More, right. You know? And this is what I'm saying. You know?
His shining moments, and perhaps his most disappointing, are entwined with former Mayor Joe Ganim. A few years ago, Mario made him the Democratic Party's lieutenant governor candidate, and then watched with crushing disappointment as his protege left for prison in a corruption conviction. Critics say Bridgeport's Democratic Town Committee is a self-interested machine, fueled by money and greased by patronage. Hey, says Mario, every organization from the Catholic Church to small towns to big cities are built on patronage. And as a byproduct, maybe, of the immigrant experience he shares with so many others in Bridgeport, people get together to watch out for the little guy and for each other. We sat down the other day for a long talk about Bridgeport, the role of politics, and loyalty. Listen in.